Welcome to our webinar series. We call it Startup Saturdays. And LinkedIn Local Guwahati has been doing it we started from the last Saturday. And we welcome Binbag's Mr. Achitra Borgohain. I would request you to take it over, about the introduction so that people
Sure,
can.
I will do that. Do
Okay.
that.
So to briefly introduce, Binbag is into e-waste management. They provide e-waste management, asset disposal, and data security services to enterprises and organizations. As of now, they are operating from Bangalore and Guwahati, and they're about to start their operation in Mumbai as well. So it is a 5-year-old startup, and the journey of 5 years is quite tough and quite challenging for them. And that's what we wanted to know from Mr. Achitra Borgohain, like how he completed this journey of 5 years and like all his experiences. That's what he wanted to share with us, and that's what all our viewers, all our listeners to this webinar are going to learn about. So I'm just passing on the mic to Mr. Borgohain.
Thank you, Mohsen. Just a quick background to already what Mohsen had said. Yes, we have been running this for about 5 years. The primary reason why I agreed to Mohsen requesting me to join this LinkedIn Local was, yes, I come from Guwahati. I'm from the Northeast, so I do have a strong sense of belonging to the region. Also, I believe that as an entrepreneur, our responsibility is beyond just creating an enterprise or solving a problem, but if we can contribute towards creating more entrepreneurs and helping grow the entrepreneurial ecosystem, especially in places like Northeast, which is currently not as vibrant as maybe Bangalore or Delhi, Mumbai. I mean, we always have that comparison, but I have huge respect for entrepreneurs starting in the Northeast region because it's a difficult terrain, right? So, access to market, access to a large consumer base, everything is lacking. But even then, there are entrepreneurs who are doing extremely well in the region, and I keep meeting one or few of them once in a while whenever I go there. So I feel a lot more can be done, and I mean, I am considering myself as somebody who is willing and able to contribute something to the growing ecosystem. And thanks to people like Mohsen and Assam Startup and Startup Assam, there are a few more organizations who are doing their bit to really grow this ecosystem. So thank you for having me. I know that these are the times when all of you must have got a lot of emails or webinar requests for how to survive in a COVID world, post-COVID, pre-COVID. All this, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be another one adding to already the anxiety of surviving in COVID. I think if you are entrepreneur, you know you will figure out how to survive post-COVID, pre-COVID, or whatever comes to you, right? Whatever the world throws at us, we will take it. We will survive. So, but what I thought would be useful is more from a general perspective of what it is that we have learned in the last 5 years. As you know, most of the startups, 7 out of 10 startups die in the first 2 years. Right? Of the three uh, that survive post 2 years is where two of them makes it and one of them really flies off. We are yet to fly off, but looks like we will survive. So let me quickly go through it. As I said, primarily the purpose of this is the adventures that we had done and some lessons that we have learned over the last 5 years that I have tried to capture it in five slides, but there will be some sub slides to that so that I just don't say point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm done. Right? So I will try to explain it a little bit as we go ahead. So we started Binbag about 2014-15, late 2014-15. The primary reason that we started was because we felt that there was a lot of problem in the electronic waste disposal. But I was coming from a venture capital and investment banking background, having worked in the corporate for 10 years. Then I left my job, took 1 year time to really figure out, what I want to do. But when we started Binbag, it was, so 2013, I left my job. 2014 is when we started this. But, I had to really understand how the waste value chain works rather than reading a McKinsey report or a global consulting report of how big the market was. I thought it was useful for me to go door to door and collect waste to really understand what is the value chain. So this is how we started Binbag in way back in 2014-15. Uh, as we speak today, 2019-20, we have three recycling plants across India, like Mohsin said, Guwahati, Hindupur in Andhra, then Bangalore, and we are also starting one in Mumbai very soon. If not for COVID, we would have already had that plant up and running by now. But now it looks like we will have to push it a little later, given the situation in Maharashtra. We have pan India customers right from Katra in Jammu, Kashmir to Nagarkoil, way south, way down south, then from Gujarat to Guwahati and Meghalaya, and almost across, spread across the country. So that has been our journey in the last 5 years. And between these 5 years, a lot of things happened, and I wanted to share that with you. And so, what was the first lesson that I learned in in these 5 years? The first lesson was start. It doesn't matter what great idea that you have. Ideas are very easy. It's execution that matters. And for execution, you need to get started. You need to go out there in the ground, out there in the market, or if I can use the word, to the battlefield, right? And you go out there and fight, right? So, like, nobody has learned cycling or swimming by reading books or reading, the best of books. Even if you read the book of Olympians, you still have to go and ride your own bicycle and get down in the swimming pool and start swimming. So the first reason, and I took about 1 year to really, find out what is it that I really want to, do, right? Because if you have something that is larger than yourself, larger than the vision is much larger than your own, own self requirement. Like there are many reasons why a person wants to do a startup, like getting a CEO tag at 25 years, right? Getting making money, and there are a lot of things. It's also cool and sexy nowadays to do a startup,
Hmm.
because if somebody says what they're doing and you say I'm founder of a startup, I'm a co-founder of a startup.
So
So
these
there
are
are a
the
lot of
things motivated you.
no, it did not. That's what I was coming to. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, these are the reasons. There are many reasons why you start up, but I think the only reason why you should start up, and these are not, really sustainable if you start thinking of getting a CEO tag, making quick money, or being cool and sexy. The only reason why you should start up is because it may sound as cliched as this, that you really want to make a change in the world, right? You want to make meaning, right? And when I say you want to change the world, you might want to fight injustice, you might want to fix a problem that the world is facing, right? You want to change the world to a better place, whether it is climate change, whatever it is, right? If the goal is much larger than your own self, that's when you will find meaning, and you will, because there will be a lot of ups and downs during this journey, right? So if you are not really, your purpose is not really bigger than yourself, it is very difficult to keep yourself motivated. Because if it is just about money, what you will see that, maybe the first 3 years you will not even earn anything, right? So what will happen is your friends will earn more money. They will post picture of their against Niagara Falls in Australia, in Europe, doing holiday, and then suddenly you will be demotivated because that's because money or those are the things that you really wanted. So please make the purpose, the vision of the company much larger than yourself. It Money will come in, but the purpose has to be much larger than yourself. So one of the things, and following this slide, because when I was also talking something similar to few students and some wannabe entrepreneurs sometime back, they also say, "How do I get ideas?" Right? Yes, I want to start up, right? But how do I get ideas? So there were a couple of things that I thought will make help you to get some ideas. So whether you are trying to solve a problem that really frustrates you, right? Whether it is something that you personally want. In our case, I really was struggling to dispose my electronic waste from my home, and there was no easier way to dispose until somebody comes and takes it away from you. You can look for a kabadi wala, but the kabadi wala is never available when you want it, right? So you really need to find something that really frustrates you, or something that you want, whether it was you know uh, say a Facebook, or whether it's a WhatsApp, or any story that you read. It is generally the founder who really wanted to solve something for himself or herself. The other place to get good ideas is to have hobbies where you meet people of similar mindset, right? So you then start talking, exchange ideas, how can we do this better, right? The other place to get idea is to volunteer, where you will meet a different set of people, right? So let's say Mohsin runs a, uh, for example, a tech company. I run a waste management company. Somebody X runs works for a corporate. But when we all volunteer for a common purpose, suddenly we see the intersection of where our interests can come together, right? How can tech, how can waste management, how can corporates, all this comes together and really find a new idea. The
That's
other
very
thing,
true. Sorry for the
yeah,
interruption.
yeah,
Uh,
sure, please.
it's like I totally agree with you on this point. Like the volunteering part, and that's how most of our volunteers are like evolving with us, and they are just not just evolving. We are growing together. If I talk about our
Okay,
volunteers, some of them are
right,
already on board. I mean,
right.
it is in this webinar. So that's how even we are growing. I'm talking about LinkedIn Local Guwahati.
Go, great. Yeah. I mean, volunteering, what happens, as I see, is it brings people of different background to a common cause, and then suddenly you start exchanging ideas, right? And one of the great thing about having new ideas is you see intersection of different fields, and then that idea starts evolving, right? So the third thing that I really saw where some of the great ideas come from are, you know, you start noticing people what people are struggling with, or some of them are like in India we say jugaad, so कुछ जुगाड़ कर रहा है वो. When you see those kind of things, right? I mean, Tata Nano is one example. I will not say it's the best example, because you might have seen it closing down. You might have read stories how it did not work, but it did not work for many other reasons, and not for the product itself. Okay, sorry. Right? The product itself was great. It was the positioning. It was the uh, how the communication was done. For the product was where it really had an issue. But if you really see how in one say two wheeler, four or five people are traveling together in you know India, you will really know that there are a lot of jugaad being done in India. So, which is brings me to a question for all of you guys here. I see 10 participants in your chat box. Can you tell me what is this red and white color thing by the side of this shopkeeper? Anybody on the chat box, please? Anyone knows what it is?
Yeah, this is a
Just
question for
unmute yourself.
everyone.
Yeah,
Is there
question is for
any wild guesses for that red box behind this man? You can just okay.
no.
We are getting some guesses. They're saying it's a fridge and
It's a
refrigerator
fridge. Good, good,
storage.
good. That's a good start. Okay, there, that's a good start. It's a small fridge. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, I
Ice
don't, I
storage,
can't.
portable fridge.
Where do I see the chat? Yeah, I can see the chat now. Fridge, yes. Refrigerator, Jeshu. Storage, I mean, ice storage, cold storage, portable fridge. Good. I think all of you are getting close to it. But the reason why I showed this is this is called Chotu Cool, right? A small fridge. Okay. And interestingly, this was made by one of the largest consumer goods company in India called Godrej. Yeah. Have you heard of this name, Chotu Cool? Anyone? You can raise your hands also in the chat box, but that's fine. So what Godrej really noticed was a workaround that Indians use a lot of pots. You know, we use those pots, earthen pots, to keep our water cool, right? It has its own advantages, but it also has comes with some disadvantages, right? So inspired by that idea of how to keep it cool, they came out with this Chotu Cool. Okay, you should read this about it because that's really it's a Harvard Business School case study, by the way, of how when you notice what people are struggling with or what they actually want, right? See, we also have large refrigerators, but this guy, the shopkeeper, will struggle with two things. One, he cannot afford that refrigerator. Two, he doesn't have that space to keep that kind of a big refrigerator. Right? So he did this workaround to, he would usually keep the water cool in the pot and all this. So Godrej came up with something called Chotu Cool, where you have the convenience of a small, all the convenience of a refrigerator, but in smaller size, and consumes very very minimal electricity, which is a big issue in the tier 3, tier 4 towns. Right? So, so when you really are saying that, where do I get ideas? Please go and start noticing what people are struggling with. That will really help you to understand and get some new great ideas. Yeah. So the second thing that I really thought is useful when you are starting up is to find some early backers or adopters. Right? When I say backers, it could be a mentor, it could be a co-founder, it could be an employee, whoever believes your idea. Yeah, this is very very important because, as I again said, the journey of an entrepreneur is very frustrating. It's a long journey. You really need to have those early backers or the adopters of your product or service who will start giving you feedback instantly. Okay? And when I say instantly, is that these guys want your product or service so badly that they can't wait for you to launch it. Right? So the moment you release a product or a service, these are the people who will quickly adopt it and start using it. Yeah, good, bad, ugly. That is a different, that is a different matter. That we will come in the next step. If you guys have seen this movie, because I watched this recently, and hence I use this example of race about Jesse Owens, who was one of the greatest athletes of all time, in this Netflix movie, where he finds his coach in the university where he joins in the US, and that coach actually backs him up till he goes up to the Olympics. Right? During the Olympics, also when the US national coach wanted to coach him, he said, "No, I want my coach from the university." Right? Because those are the guys who really backed him during that point of time, and because he understands him so well as to what is his training schedule, what is it that he is good at, that he really wanted his guy to be there. Right? So the reason you must have an early adopters, as I said, because when you are doing a startup or when you're trying to create a startup, there are three important things, and the first one is why it why it is the paramount to have some early adopters is to make something customers really want. Right? If you do not have an early adopters, that basically means you never went to the customers and spoke to them. Right? You were building a fancy product. Aajkal app banana is so cool. I mean, right? You any problem that you see, you start making an app. Right? So the which means if you don't really go and talk to your customers, right? If you don't really understand what the need is, then you will never have early adopters. Right? So so please, when you are starting it, anything, please first go to users that you have in your mind, segment the market, think very clearly whom do you want to service. You may think my service will be used across the world. Everyone, anyone on this planet Earth will use it, but that's not the way. Segment the market, find those early adopters, go and talk to them. Right? Don't start building a PowerPoint, Excel sheet, and start sending it to investors. I keep getting LinkedIn messages saying we are thinking of doing this. Is there anyone who will fund it? I have build this. Will anyone give me funding? But thing is, they have not really gone and validated those assumptions in the market. So please be very sure what you are making and who are your early adopters. And if you do not have early adopters, means you are building something fancy, which is in your mind, but there's no really a problem in the out there in the market. Yeah, so this is the from an idea point of view, where you were thinking about what are the best ideas that you want to start up. This is the execution part. So this execution part is the most important part of the early stage startups, where you go and launch the product. Right? You start taking feedback from those early customers. Right? You change what is required to be changed. Right? And then if some features needs to be added, if some things need to be changed, you do that. Right? So just like I mean, I've used a example of the Wright brothers when they had launched the first flight. Now imagine if they would not have launched, but only started doing it theoretically, that okay, we should do this, we could do this. They would have never learned, and the industry would not have moved forward. Right? They went out there, launched it. Whatever changes were required, they came back, they iterated it, and then you know modified the product to an extent which was acceptable to everyone. So this is an important slide which some of you entrepreneurs who are already who are present here might be aware of. So we have now started talking about minimum viable product, right? So somewhere there is a misconception of what that minimum viable product is. What should you launch in the market? Right? Now, suddenly, if you want to launch in this example, if you want to launch a car, no, you cannot launch one tire, right? You cannot sell one tire to the customer, because you will see this is the minimum viable product for you, but that is not what it is, right? A minimum viable products, if you look at the second sequence 1 2 3 4 5 like this, is the way that you have to approach your product or service. You may first build a roller skater, you may then build a bicycle, then you can build a car. But if you are addressing the problem of mobility for people, right, you cannot say I will give you two tires, right? Go figure. Right? Please be very because there are too much of news about launching fast, breaking fast, break and make. So all those things are there where which confuses entrepreneurs, that I need to go and launch it today because I might be already late to the market. So it doesn't mean that you just need a feature and then launch it. It also means that you need functional and some design sense, some emotional appeal to the customer where they start using it. See, I was struggling with my uh, say mobility. I wanted something which can take me quicker, faster. So if you give me bicycle, I am happy. But that is not my ideal scenario. But I am happy to adopt it. But I see that there are problems that it doesn't go as fast as I want. And secondly, when it rains, I am not covered. Right? So I may have a problem, but it still solves my mobility issue. Till the time I get to the car, it is solving a problem. But if you give me two wheels and says go figure, that. So please bear in mind as to what it is a minimum viable product is, where customer starts giving you feedback and have an emotional engagement with your product or service before you go and start building the next version, the next version, the next version. The third point, as I said in the previous slide, is the pivot, which is again very important because once we launch the product or service in the market, generally we uh, don't. We feel that the market requires something else, and then you might need to, pivot the service. So for us, when we launched a Binbag, as you could see in the first picture, I started collecting waste from door to door, from individual consumer waste. Then I tried to get the Kabadiwala network to collect it for us, right? So, but then we had a lot of issues there because the Kabadiwala service was really not up to the mark. They would not follow certain SOPs. We wanted him to be there at the customer side within an hour of getting the request, or at least within next 24 hours if it is far. But they would not really adopt that. And for us also, the unit economics was not really working, right? So that's when we pivoted from a B2C market to a B2B market, because when we knew that the problem of e-waste was a huge problem. Okay, but the hypothesis that we had was that the Kabadiwala network will be able to collect it the way we wanted was not validated, and that required us to change and pivot the model from a B2C to a B2B model. So today we only service corporates and enterprises, and yeah. So there's a time of 8 minutes left, is it? Do we rejoin after that in case it gets disconnected?
Yeah, that can be done.
Okay,
The time slot we have
right.
set is for 39 minutes, and that's how the all the notifications are being sent. So
Ah,
we can just move forward.
yeah, sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm already on point number 4, so I just need another 5 minutes to quickly wrap up. So the fourth thing that I wanted to touch upon was about the competition, because somewhere once you launch and you are out there in the market, you will see a lot of competitors around you, right? And suddenly you start thinking, oh, he is already doing this. Oh, he has raised more money. There's too much of noise around you. There will be too much of noise around you. But the reason I use the picture of a marathon is because if you look, or if you consider doing a startup as a marathon, you will not really be worried about the competition in the first 1, 2, 5, 10 kilometers even, right? You are just keeping your pace, right? Because if you just pace your run, it is 42 kilometers away, right? The finish line is 42 kilometers away. So it's very important for you to pace yourself and not worry too much of noise about competition doing this, competition raising money is in fact a big concern for some of the startups, in saying my competitor has raised so much of money, so they will wipe me out. But the best way to compete with if you are bootstrap, the best way is to compete with them is to survive long enough that it becomes a matter of competence rather than just money. Okay, so after he or she will also run out of money. Today, even Oyo is running out of money, laying off people, right? But Ola is running out of money. Everybody is running out of money. They are not laying off people because they are saying this is work from home. Work from home is a cover, is a cover of a larger back end issue, because they never really make money. But you don't hear Tatas and Birlas saying I'm laying off 1,000 or 1,400 people at one go. Why? Right? Because it is competence that they have built in. Right? So once, if it is about competence, you just survive long enough that money will run out, but your competence will survive. So this is the last part, and this is where I see some very technical founders struggling with, telling their story very well, and sometimes a non-technical, person really struggling with the numbers, right? So the technical guy doesn't talk about the story. He will say, "I have built this product. This is the best product in the world. This is this. It has this features. इसको यहाँ पे वायर कनेक्ट करो, इसमें कैपेसिटर है, इसमें रेजिस्टर है." And there's a lot of talk with, because by the time you hear those kind of people, lost ki what was he doing, what is the problem he was solving. The second problem that we see with some, uh, non-technical founders or somebody from, say, an arts background or something, they will not even talk about the numbers. Right? So it becomes very difficult to gauge a business opportunity if you don't have numbers. But if you two entrepreneurs are, let's say, pitching about the same opportunity, and one person is good at storytelling, you know which one will get the money, right? So I have a quick photos. Can people quickly put in what is it that they? What is this picture about? Which movie? Because when we talk about storytelling, we cannot miss out Hollywood, right? Hollywood is the way people talk about stories, right? Harry Potter, yeah. Harry Potter, Malavika, Harry Potter. Okay, so most of you know. What about this? Lord of the Rings. Exactly. Good. Come on, guys, fast. We are running out of time, and then this is my last slide. Lord of the Rings, Skyfall, James Bond. Exactly. Thanks. Rijwan even knew the movie name. So the reason I showed you this is that's when we talk about storytelling, as I said, you cannot miss out Hollywood. And what we need to learn from this Hollywood is how they blend the story with a believable concept, right? So even when James Bond is flying his cars and running from one dam to another, so you start believing it because they have blended it all together. So this is the part that I wanted to come to, about the storytelling part. That when you pitch your story, there is always a hero, a villain, and a mentor. So the last three photos that you have seen, all of those guys, right? The hero of the movie has a mentor, right? Correct. All of those guys have a mentor. And in James Bond case, it is Q, right, who is making some gadgets for him. In the Lord of the Ring, you have a mentor, or whether it is Harry Potter.